Good evening. We're just a couple of minutes, well, actually, we're a couple of minutes late. But having said that, we're going to get started. Before we begin our meeting, before I call the meeting to order, I'd like to invite you to stand and join me in the pledge, and then I'll bring the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day you've given us in which to serve you. God, we thank you for the city of Springdale and for the residents that make up our community. God, we thank you for your watch and protection. God, we thank you for this opportunity to represent our citizens as council and mayor and elected officials. God, we just ask that you guide us tonight as we make decisions, and that those decisions would be pleasing to you. And God, use those decisions to make a positive difference in the lives of those who live here. We ask these things and trust you for them now in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you. All right. I'll call to order this regular meeting of the Springdale City Council. This is Tuesday, August 8th, 2017. We do have large print agendas over here. What?
They're larger, but not the large.
Okay. They're larger than these, but not as large as we usually have, and I don't know why that is, but that's okay. Save paper, maybe. Sam has those if anyone would like any of those. Having said that, I'm going to ask our city clerk to call the roll. Denise?
Chris Brouse.
Here.
Rick Culver, Jeff Watson, Mike Overton, Colby Fulfer.
Here.
Mike Lawson.
Here.
Rick Evans.
Here.
Jim Reed. Here. Kathy Jaycox.
Here.
Ernest Kay.
Here.
All right, thank you. I meant to mention this before the prayer, actually, and just as an update on Rick Culver, who had surgery almost 2 weeks ago now, and the surgery was successful by all accounts, but he's had some complications. Still in the hospital. I am pleased to report that he is out of intensive care now and seems to be on the mend. Hopefully he'll be out of the hospital before long and be able to join us before long. I know we all miss him and miss his service right now on the council. So just wanted to give everyone that update. Economic Development Report. Looks like Perry's here. Perry Webb from Springdale Chamber. Perry?
Thank you, Mayor. I've been put on a 2-minute timer tonight, so we're going to push this
You can't
along.
possibly say all those great things that we have going on in 2 minutes.
Sit back and watch. I did lay a report. I trust all of you have already read through it. Great news to report. Last year we had a great year, job creation in all of Northwest Arkansas, and especially in Springdale. We created about 1,300 jobs, round numbers, 1,275, 1,300 jobs in all of 16. In 17 through June, we're at 2,300 new jobs in Springdale. Now, you also know that the sales tax has gone up about 18% year to year. From June of 17 compared to June of 16, it's up 18%. Unemployment rate ties to disposable income, which ties into purchasing power, which ties into sales tax, right? So it's all connected. As we all know, things are really rolling in Northwest Arkansas. I told somebody the other day, we thought back in 05 and 06 that things were really hot in Northwest Arkansas, but we didn't know what hot was compared to what it is today. So things are really going good. There is some data in there. Unemployment rate at 2.4% in Springdale through June. That's the lowest of all the major cities in Arkansas, the lowest unemployment rate. And of course, the Chamber's going to take credit for all of these good things. Y'all know that, right? Okay. You see here some initiatives that are going on, some projects. Existing manufacturers are talking to us. We've had 3 of those in very recent history. 3 existing manufacturers. We have some that are relocating from other parts of the state we're trying to get. There's some projects out there with retail and tourism and restaurants that we're working on. That's hotter than it's been in several years as far as tourist destination and entertainment activities. And then obviously downtown redevelopment is going at taking all-time great strides there. We have a couple of initiatives that we're working with that I want to let you know, and when we get more detail, I'll come and talk to each of you individually about this, but we are using some contacts that we've developed in Washington, D.C. to help get involved with some grant proposals. Department of Education, FEMA, Department of Youth and Health and Human Services, Department of Transportation, you name FAA, you name the federal entity in Washington, D.C. We have ends now. Basically, we've hired a lobbyist. The Chamber has, and Springdale now has a lobbyist in D.C., and there's some very good things that are developing because of that, and I think you're going to hear a lot of good news as we go forward over the next several months with that. The city's been great to work with, as well as the school system and the Downtown Springdale Alliance and others. We have a couple of workforce announcements, I guess you would say, a program that's been put together and a study that's being done trying to figure out what's the demand, the supply, and the resources available for diesel mechanics and diesel technicians. That's a really hot button. There's about 800 jobs in that world available in Northwest Arkansas today. And so we think there's an opportunity with Springdale being positioned in the center of the region. Last but not least, we are doing some business retention and expansion interviews. We've done about 50 so far this year. We're hearing good things everywhere we go. We've had very little, and we've identified several expansion projects through those. Scott was out last week in a BR&E visit out on Ford Avenue. And he walked out of the business he was talking to, and he looked across the parking lot, and there was somebody there he didn't recognize. And he walked in the building, and there was an industry that had sprung up 4 months ago. We had no idea they were there. They had 30 employees working there. And so that's what you find out when you get out and talk to the troops and put the boots on the ground, I guess. We heard this afternoon late, August 23rd at 10 a.m. It's going to be the grand opening scheduled for the Tyson's facility on Monitor and Huntsville. The incubation facility, they'll be opening on the 23rd at 10. And then we heard some really good news last week about the downtown Tyson facility, and it's scheduled to open in mid-November, early to mid-November, before Thanksgiving, they think. And we're working now with them to how to schedule some kind of an event for a grand opening of that facility. A lot of good things are happening with Tyson Foods downtown, and that's a great thing for all of us. So with that, I've gone over my 2 minutes. I apologize, Mayor.
Thank you, Perry. That's all great news. Appreciate it. Item 5, comments from citizens. Do we have, if we have residents that would like to address the council concerning an item that is not on tonight's agenda, feel free to come forward to the microphone, clearly state your name and address, and please understand again that the council won't be taking any action tonight on what you have to bring to their attention. And please keep your comments brief. So is there anyone that would like to address the council concerning an item that's not on tonight's agenda? Okay, seeing none.
Mayor, I'd like
Yes.
to see if we could move 14 up to 7C, since it's just a formality. No reason to have Mitchell sit here all evening.
All right. Item 14 on your agenda, so that's a motion,
Yes.
Mike. So to ask to move item 14 up to item 7C.
As a courtesy, well, I'll second that. As a courtesy, shall we tell people in the audience what we're actually doing?
That has to do with the appointment of an airport, Northwest Arkansas Regional Airport member. So so that he doesn't have to sit here all night, and we appreciate that he's here. Many times these appointments don't necessarily show up, so we're glad Mitchell is here, and we want to certainly move him to up so he doesn't have to sit through. He can if he wants to, but he doesn't have to sit through the rest of the
He
meeting.
needs to understand we might not move him up next time.
Yeah.
It's a one-time deal.
So Kathy, did you second
I
that?
did.
Okay. Roll call, please. Excuse me.
Did we read the title?
Do I have to read the title
Oh,
to
I'm
move
sorry,
it?
you're amending the
Yeah,
agenda.
we're just
I was not
moving it.
getting
We're
it.
not,
I thought
yeah,
we
we're
were
not,
doing the resolution.
we're not approving him yet. We're not gonna make it that easy on him. Okay.
Wolfer,
Yes.
Lawson,
Yes, ma'am.
Evans.
Yes, ma'am.
Reed.
Yes.
Jaycox.
Yes.
Carries 5-0.
5-0, thank you. So we will, we'll get to that one in just a few minutes. Next, we're at the approval of minutes, item 6, for those of you following along at home. We have minutes for, looks like 3 meetings.
I'm finally caught up.
Yeah, our Denise finally caught everything up. So if there are no additions or questions, then I would entertain a motion to approve those minutes as presented.
If none, so moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Item 7, procedural motions.
Move for A and B.
Okay, we have a motion for A and B
Second.
and a second.
Mayor,
Yes.
it requires two-thirds vote. Do you have two-thirds
The mayor is allowed to vote on it, and that would be 6.
on the two-thirds?
Yes, to get the 6 vote,
I can vote on the procedural motion.
but not on emergency clause.
Okay.
Yeah, we won't be passing any emergency clauses tonight if nobody else shows up. So, all right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Lawson,
Yes, ma'am.
Evans.
Yes, ma'am.
Reed.
Yes.
Jaycox.
Yes.
Fulfer.
Yes.
Mayor.
And I vote yes.
Carries 6-0.
All right. Now, item 7C, which is, I'll just go ahead and read it. This is, was item 14, a resolution appointing Mitchell Johnson to the Northwest Arkansas Airport Authority to complete the unexpired term of resigning authority member Mike McFarland. And this term is to expire on January 1 of 2023.
Move the resolution pass.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further comments or questions? Anyone in the audience? All right, Denise?
Evans.
Yes, ma'am.
Reed.
Yes.
Jaycox.
Yes.
Fulfer.
Yes.
Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Carries 5-0.
All right, congratulations, Mitchell, and thank you again for, not only for being here, but for your willingness to serve. Mike McFarland, I also want to thank him for his time on the commission, on the authority, and look forward to working with you, Mitchell. Thank you. All right, back to item 8. Ordinance Committee Report and Recommendations, Chairman Mike Overton, and I know Mike is not here tonight, could not be here. Would another committee member like to take that?
I'll go ahead and take it since I kind of brought him up anyway.
You're kind of the reason for this anyway, aren't you?
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Jim.
The first one, A, is an ordinance amending Section 9031 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Springdale, Arkansas to declare emergency for other purposes. Committee recommended approval. What 9031 does is clean up some language on and helps us put it in another place where it should belong. And I'm going to go ahead and recommend this ordinance pass.
Is that a motion?
That's motion.
Well, it's different than a recommendation, that's why I asked. I'll second his motion.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further questions or comments? Anyone? All right, Denise?
Reed.
Yes.
Jaycox.
Yes.
Fulfer.
Yes.
Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Evans.
Yes, ma'am.
Carries 5-0 without an emergency clause.
The next one is along the same lines. It's coming from the section 9031, but it's in 5639. And what it's doing is taking the language that was in 9031 and actually adding it to 5639, which is the ordinance that it should be at. And it's an ordinance amending section 5639 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Springdale, Arkansas, declare an emergency and for other purposes, and the committee recommended approval. Again, I make a motion this ordinance pass.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further comments or questions? Anyone in the room? Okay, Denise?
Jaycox.
Yes.
Fulfer.
Yes.
Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Evans.
Yes, ma'am.
Reed.
Yes.
Carries 5-0 without an emergency clause.
And the third one is part of the same 9031. It's amending section 98.3 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Springdale, Arkansas, and declare an emergency and for other purposes, and the committee recommended approval on this one. This one does change language just a little bit. I believe it does. Isn't that right, Ernest?
It
And
clarifies the procedure regarding filing for a variance from the sign ordinance.
Right.
Clarifies it.
But where it changes is it also says that the list of the property owners does not have to be a certified list anymore, I believe.
Right, it's the same list that is required in a zoning variance.
Right.
Makes those the same.
Okay.
And I move this ordinance pass.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further comments or questions? All right, Denise?
Wolfer.
Yes.
Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Evans.
Yes, ma'am.
Reed.
Yes.
Jaycox.
Yes.
Carries 5-0 without an emergency clause.
All right, thank you. Item 9, Finance Committee report and recommendations, and Chairman Jeff Watson also is not here tonight.
Mayor, on the one we just done, can we put them back on for next meeting so that we can do emergency clauses on them
Next week or next,
next meeting?
oh, I thought, I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Put them back on council in 2 weeks for the emergency clause?
Right.
I believe you can, but let me check on that, but I believe you
Okay.
can.
Okay. So that would cut the, I'm just trying to,
Pass quicker is about what I was saying.
how much quicker would it get it?
Actually, if they pass that emergency clause, it's 60 days. Remember, the law changed on that 2 years ago. It's actually 60 days.
Okay. As long as the law says we can do that, we'll sure do it, Jim. Thank you.
I think we've done it before.
Yeah. Okay, now, is there a committee member who would like to take the Finance Committee? There's one item on it.
I'll go ahead and take it if you want me to.
Okay.
An ordinance this is an ordinance to establish and assess a video service provider fee for Ozark Go LLC pursuant to the Arkansas Video Act and Arkansas Code 2319-201. The committee recommended approval. This is the same amount that we charge to our other providers, I believe.
Right, this is kind of a new creation that was created in 2013, and we put Ozarks Go LLC on notice back in April, as we're required to by statute, that we were going to do this, and this just puts it into place.
All right.
You make a motion? I'll make a motion that we move this forward, or that we approve this
All right.
to committee.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the resolution. I'm sorry, the ordinance. Any other questions or comments? All right, hearing none, I'll ask for the vote.
Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Evans.
Yes, ma'am.
Reed.
Yes.
Jaycox.
Yes.
Wolfer.
Yes.
Carries 5-0, and it didn't need an emergency clause because the statute states when the first payment's due.
Great. Item 10, Street and CIP Committee report and recommendations, and Chairman Rick Evans. Rick?
Okay, we have two resolutions, one ordinance on the agenda now we had from a meeting last week. The first one is a resolution authorizing the execution of a contract for professional services, and this is the contract for the architects to design the animal shelter.
Okay, and the
Paid for some
committee did
6
recommend approval.
It was recommended $61,500.
All right.
I'll move this resolution be approved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Now, we can sure open it up for further discussion. If there is none,
Mayor, I'd like to address that for just a moment. I was actually able to go by the animal shelter today and had a good conversation with Ms. Courtney, who's the director there. I was able to walk through and see the job that they do, and I would definitely agree. There's no question on whether or not we need a new facility or something. She explained even, I believe that we've got a septic tank on the property there that's backing up into the facility. The ventilation is terrible in there. And we walked through it, and she explained some of the needs there, the animal shelter, and there's no doubt that we need a solution to that situation. And I'd actually like to say thank you to her for her willingness to go there every day and do what she does. Here's my concern with this and the allotting the $61,500. This is attached, well, it's not attached, but this is assuming that at some point, whenever we take the bond issue to the city, that it's going to be an up or down vote, yes or no. And I think some of the people that I spoke with were under the impression that some of these items are going to be line item votes on a bond issue, where we can approve, the voters can go to the booth and say, yes, animal shelter, no to this other project. I think that was the assumption of some of the people I spoke with. But my understanding is that it's an up or down vote overall.
The bond issue will be divided up into separate ballot questions. The animal shelter would be a standalone ballot question, as would infrastructure, parks, fire, criminal justice facility. Yeah, they would each be a separate ballot question that must be approved.
Okay, so with the 61,500, that's money, this is assuming that this passes at the ballot. My concern on this is if the city does not approve this, that we'll still have the plans, there would be plans for a future animal shelter. But my concern is that we would spend the money on the plans, and for some reason it not pass, then we would just have a set of plans, and we've spent $61,500. The other night at our committee meeting, my proposal was to see if we could find a solution temporarily in case this doesn't pass, because part of my questioning with Courtney today was, if this doesn't pass, where is that going to leave us? We don't have the city, as far as I've seen in our budget, we wouldn't have $4 million to do an animal shelter if the city didn't pass this in the bond issue. And so in looking for alternatives and seeing how bad the condition of the facility is in currently, one of the solutions I said is at least to have a conversation with the county to use our animal shelter, which I think would, I went there today and I saw, and I'm not big on anthropomorphic analogies, but there was an Avalon was the dog that was there that I noticed waiting for adoption, and I looked at the conditions of that and I thought, are we going to look for the best solution? The other option is to say we want to make sure that we have a facility. The problem is, if it doesn't pass, we're going to be in a situation where we don't have money for a new animal shelter. So that's my concern with this, is I'm wanting to find a solution. When I did talk to someone with the county, they said that they charge $85 per animal, and if we have 2,500 animals, that would be $212,500 per year. And I think, and I might be wrong about this, I think our operating budget's $750,000 for the animal shelter, somewhere near there. So it could be a situation of a $500,000 difference in our operating. But there is no question something needs to be done. The conversation with the county costs zero to have a conversation, but committing to this costs $61,500. So part of my concern is just tied to the bond issue of whether or not it will pass. And it may pass and we'd be fine, and if not, that's just my concern that we're allocating the money. The criminal justice building is a little different in my view. I don't mind voting to pass, going ahead and doing that, because we've been assured that the city of Springdale is not going to be, I guess, on the hook if for some reason the bond issue doesn't pass. Then the money that's already being spent on the criminal justice building, that's being paid for through a grant. This would not be, as far as I understand. I may be wrong about that. But anyway, that's my concern. Not that we don't need a new solution for the animal shelter. When I went through there today, we need a solution. Those are just my concerns.
Okay, thank you.
Colby, I'd like to just say thank you for taking the time, Courtney too, to get out to the shelter to see the conditions. Part of this solution is hopefully that there's an already identified space that we already own that has the infrastructure there to support it, which means the dollars at the end of the day, we can build a much better shelter than if we had to buy land and then add the infrastructure, parking, and other things. Part of what we talked about too is the access to the trail system and to allow a more centrally located shelter So more people, it becomes more visible. It's not invisible. It doesn't feel so industrial-like. And as you saw, the conditions today, they're pretty rough. And so I encourage us to spend this money. We did ask a question, and maybe Wyman has that answer now.
I think I sent an email. If it's the question,
Well,
if it's the question, I know what happens when I send Kathy emails.
Send them to my
Yeah,
home.
okay. Go ahead with your question, and let's make sure that
Well, my
I'm,
question was, if we allocate this money, can it be reimbursed by the bond program?
and the answer to
Assuming
that,
it passes.
the answer to that is yes, as long as we pass a resolution before we actually spend the money. So if this is approved tonight, and it's the council's wishes to have this eligible for reimbursement from the bond, then we would need to pass a resolution sometime between now and the time we actually spent the money for the professional service.
Okay, thank you, appreciate that. And again, Colby, part of what I have seen, it's as if you're going to build something, but you have no formal plan. So in order to present something to the people that they would support, because most people I speak to know how desperate a new shelter is needed, that we have a real plan with real dollars, so we're either not, as the mayor has said, over-promising and under-delivering, or even worse, that we can't build what we need. So that's why I think this is a good idea. But I do appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, to Kathy's point, and I'm 60 years old, but I still try and learn things, and I think going through the 2012 bond issue, I will say the residents of Springdale certainly are pleased, at least by, I think, all accounts, on what we were able to accomplish with that. But we were pressed for time because we did not have the projects, with the exception of Don Tyson Parkway interchange. We didn't have the other projects. I'm talking mostly about road projects, but the same could also be said about our fire stations. We were not in a position to give our voters good information about what all we thought we were going to be able to do, because so many things were not designed. And you can't have price estimates before you have designs. And so we're really trying with the criminal justice building, with some of the work that Brad and engineering are doing on Jean George Boulevard from Blue Avenue North. We're trying to get the things that we're going to ask our citizens to approve. We're trying to get those as much good information about what those things are going to cost and what they're going to look like and what they're going to be able to do. We're trying to get them as much good information as we can. So that's the thinking behind going ahead and moving out on some of these projects and getting ahead of that. You know, when we sell the bonds, that 3-year clock starts ticking. And we also have found, and Colby, I know you agree with this because we've talked about it, you know, with the possibility of other cities doing bond issues, the quicker we're able to get these projects out to bid after the residents approve it, then the better off we're all going to be as far as pricing. So we truly believe it has the potential to save our voters quite a bit of money on these projects. That's abstract, there's no guarantee, but I can tell you that because of the Don Tyson Parkway interchange was already designed, we saved $2 million below estimates. Every other project we did the budget was blown up because then everybody was getting busy. So you know, my hope is and my belief is that the residents will approve this ballot issue as well as the rest, but there is a risk there of the 61.5 for design. As you mentioned, we would at least have it designed if we had to come back and build it from some other funds later. But that's my reasoning behind it. And anyway, with that said, We have a motion and a second. Does anyone in the audience, or are there other comments from the council?
I don't totally disagree with what Kobe's saying, but at the same time, I think that this is small money for us to go ahead and have the plans, because whether the bond passes or not, we need a new animal shelter. And if we have the designs, then we can start working that way.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Then I'll ask for the vote.
Evans,
Yes, ma'am.
Reed,
Yes.
Jaycox.
Yes.
Fulfer,
No.
Lawson,
Yes, ma'am.
4-1, Mayor, you can be the fifth vote if you choose to do so.
I vote yes.
5-1.
All right, Rick?
Okay, the next one was recommended to bring in front of the council with no recommendation. We had some questions on it. It's a resolution authorizing the execution of contract amendment for professional services, and I'm going to turn it over to Patsy.
As we discussed at the committee meeting, this was 2 proposed changes to Dean's Trail. One was to accommodate the change in the design for the rodeo, different crossing than what we originally talked about, and the other one was on the south end. Mr. Lawson's concern was those property owners on the south end hadn't been notified of the change. I have been trying to get a hold of them. I think it's a really bad time of the year to get a hold of people at home. So what I have proposed, and you have on the table tonight, is to go ahead and approve the one on the north side, which would be contract amendment number 1, which allows us to go ahead and get started, use the federal money that we have available, and get that, and give me a couple of weeks to see if I can contact those property owners after school starts and everybody becomes being at home a little bit more than they have been. The resolution reads the same, it's just the dollar amount would be changed from the $65,500 to $45,150, and after we've had that chance to contact them, we'll come back with the amendment number 2.
Patsy, remind me, I know well the $253,000 that we were able to pick up that was cut loose from another project that's not going to happen. What other federal money is in this?
We have a TAP grant already
Right.
that we got approved for this project, and we'll be adding the other $250,000. Plus, we have a Walton Family Foundation grant for this.
Right.
So the construction, for the most part, is being handled with grant funds well, actually 3 different grant funds. And with these 2 changes, we would actually be saving about $117,000 in
We're not
construction
saving
work.
anything with this first change.
No,
but
we're not changing anything with the first
if
change.
we
do
move
the
through
other one.
later
Right.
with the other amendment, then savings on construction would more than offset both of these design changes.
That's correct,
Okay.
right,
If-
and we'll have that additional money.
Right.
Patsy, the original amount here was 65 something, wasn't it?
Uh-huh.
If we do not pass that tonight, okay, the 65 something, when it comes back for that amendment, is it gonna cost us more then?
No, we had.
45,150, Jim.
45,150 for
No,
this one, the
yeah,
other one
I-
will be the 24 that makes it, the total amount will never be over 65,600.
Yeah.
We just split it into 2 contract amendments to give us time to make sure we contact those property owners, and there was some concern about them not knowing. The ones I have talked to haven't been a problem so far, but I haven't got a hold of all of them yet.
But that would allow us, since the federal money is being used on this first portion, where this first amendment and design change was, that allows us to secure that $253,000 plus what was already
Right.
federal money.
I understand
just to-
that.
yeah.
I can tell you that we have all but one of the easements signed, and that should be signed today, and we'd be ready to move forward. NTI signed theirs after the rodeo signed theirs. We're ready to go with all that. Just needs to be sent to Little Rock so that we can start the first phase.
Are there other questions? I don't know. if-
Mayor, let me just clarify. I know you and I had some discussion last week.
Right.
And I know with a no vote, I'm going to be labeled anti-trail, and I don't want that, and you know I'm not. The problem I had with the whole deal was the notifying of affected landowners.
Right.
And I appreciate what Patsy's doing, and I think that's a great deal. I think moving forward, to be clear, it's more of the processes as opposed to the trail. And I think our process is when we're affected landowners, we have to, at all costs, meet with those people prior to bringing it to council, saying this is the best route. And that was what gave me heartburn, and I just want to clarify that. I'm not anti-trail. I like trails. I use the trails, but I think our processes have to change.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
And I can tell you that design of trails is really kind of unique because you can get one property owner that creates a really big problem and you got to go back and look at something else, and that's, not that it was a problem. He probably had a better idea than what we had going. But, you know, as we work through these and start talking to property owners, it gets to be that. We'll try to do better in the next
We
one.
just,
You
we just
never
need
know.
to do a better job of making sure that everybody, I feel like we were able to come to a pretty good solution here, because I agree with the notification and that, you know, and I understand, you know, what your concern was, Mike, and I agree with that. And on this one, my feeling is we were able to come to a good solution that would allow that and still enable us to go ahead and begin on the northern part and get this federal money obligated.
Right.
So hopefully that's made everybody feel better about this, but I agree with you on the process that we need to
We have public
do a better
hearings, and
job.
unfortunately, we don't get a lot of people show up, and sometimes we got to be better at making sure.
But we didn't have a public meeting on this
No.
change.
No, we haven't had a
Yeah.
public meeting on
And
that
I think
change. That's
where-
correct. That's
I
the
think
part
that's
we
where
haven't had yet.
We
Right.
need to do better.
Right.
Okay. Are there any other, I don't know if we got a motion. Okay.
Not, I'll make a motion that we pass this resolution.
Which is just for Amendment 1, which puts it at the
Yes.
45,000.
For the- for
Thank
the
you very
warning.
much for
Okay.
clarifying
I'd
that.
take the whole thing at once and get it going,
But that's okay.
Yeah, I know.
This is
Yeah.
a good, yes.
Okay, we got a motion?
Second.
Okay, and a second. Thank you, Jim. Any other comments or questions? All right, Denise?
Reed,
Yes.
Jaycox?
Yes.
Fulfer?
Yes.
Lawson?
Yes, ma'am.
Evans?
Yes, ma'am.
Carries 5-0.
All right, thank you, and we will have opportunity for input from those, basically, we're talking about the property owners on Zared, really. About 9 or 10 property owners, and we'll have a good feel for their response and their, any concerns they've got before we bring this back to you for the other design change. All right, thank you, everybody. And Rick, I think you've got one more.
I have one more, and it's an ordinance to waive competitive bidding for the purchase of Grid Smart traffic video detection system for the intersection in Spring Hill, Arkansas. And it was recommended for approval. And I'll turn it over to, if anybody got any questions, we'll turn it over to Dub. This is basically getting where all of our video detection systems are all the same.
Move the ordinance pass.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further questions or comments? Anyone? Okay. Denise?
Jaycox?
Yes.
Fulfer?
Yes.
Lawson?
Yes, ma'am.
Evans?
Yes, ma'am.
Reed?
Yes.
Carries 5-0 without an emergency clause.
All right, thank you. Now we move to item 11. That's our Parks and Rec Committee report and recommendations, and Chairman is Mike Lawson. Mike?
Thank you, Mayor. We had one item on our agenda, and we met last week. It's a resolution authorizing the execution of a maintenance agreement for professional services. What that is letting Gray Barn do the maintenance on Walter Turnbow Park. And I think more than anything, it's $14,220 a year. It's a one-year contract, and I think that just to keep that area looking nice and staying on top of it more than anything, and we've dealt with them in the past, maybe.
All right.
Move the resolution pass.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions about this?
I think they were the only one to turn in a bid, weren't they?
Yep.
Is that what it was? Have we dealt with them, or is it? I couldn't remember. I thought that was.
Yeah, I'm pleased they did. So,
That area definitely needs to stay looking good. It's a pretty area. Those people that hadn't been down there need to go see it.
I totally agree with you, Mike. It is absolutely
I
beautiful.
wasn't able to be at the opening, but I went down the other night, and it's interesting. It's nice.
It's a lovely place to have lunch,
Yep.
too, right
Yep.
by the water.
Until I
way-
heard the mayor say there were snakes down there, then I was a little nervous.
look for city and town, that great picture that, I believe it's the guy you know, Mike. he took that night?
Yes.
That's in the magazine, so. and-
Chris Rogers took
Yeah,
that
Chris-
picture. It's a great
It
picture.
is beautiful.
So we'll look for that. We may get that from him and blow it up and
Yeah,
put it somewhere.
it's a great
It's a great picture. All right. Any other comments or questions? If not, I'll ask Denise to call a roll.
Wolfer.
Yes.
Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Evans.
Yes, ma'am.
Reed.
Yes.
Jaycox.
Yes.
Carries 5-0.
All right, thank you. Item 12, as Patsy comes up, this is the Planning Commission report and recommendations. Being presented by our Director of Planning. Patsy?
In compliance with ordinance number 3195, the Planning Commission conducted a review of the Master Street Plan, which we do in odd-numbered years. We've looked over it, identified some areas that we see that need to be amended to our Master Street Plan, and that's what's being presented to you tonight. One of those, and you can see on the picture, is an extension of 56th Street all the way up, including a long-term adding a interchange on the 412 bypass, which would give us a nice north-south on that, on the west side of 49, all the way from Johnson Mill Boulevard all the way to the 412 bypass. If you look at it from a regional standpoint, sometime in the future it might even extend further on so that we can move traffic. We all know there's 6 lanes on 49, but quite honestly, it's probably going to be full by the time it gets done, and we have to look at some other alternatives. The second change is to make changes at the interchange at Elm Springs Road and 49. Looking at the possibility of combining the off-ramp with where the signal is there, talking to the highway department about the possibility of some kind of a new study to look at that. If we don't get it on the Master Street Plan, it doesn't get looked at. So it gives us an opportunity. It's not saying we're doing anything with it yet, but it gives us that opportunity. And also to create a local street length between 45th Place and 40th Street. So if you go behind the liquor store and Whataburger, you could come over and get out at 40th Street and be able to. The traffic out there, if you haven't been out there, is not the best, and it's better. The bridge is almost done. It's gonna, but with all the other development that's being looked at in that whole interchange, something needs to be done with that. So we're recommending that it at least get looked at and get on the highway department's study to see if there's something that could be done to that interchange. The other one is the extension of Dixieland from Apple Blossom to Wagon Wheel Road. We're all aware of the changes that have gone and are going on with J.B. Hunt. The traffic situation on Apple Blossom and Silent Grove Road, if you haven't been up there in the evenings or the mornings, is really beginning to be a problem because they put that new parking lot and it dumps directly onto Apple Blossom. So we would put this on there. Keep in mind, this is not a set alignment. It just indicates on the Master Street Plan that we need a connection from where the extension, now it does tie into where the city of Lowell is bringing it to Apple Blossom, but starting at that location and bringing it on south. We will have to do some study in the future to see where that needs to go, but it gets it on the Master Street Plan. If there is federal funding in the future, it's got to be on our Master Street Plan, so we're doing that. The only other changes was to make how Johnson Road ties in with as it is now on the new Johnson Mill, where Main Street comes up. That hadn't been updated, so those are just clerical areas that had to be taken care of. Planning Commission held a public hearing on this. There were a few comments about the traffic situation on Apple Blossom. There were no any other comments. We didn't receive a lot of comments. Planning Commission recommends approval of this update to the Master Street Plan. The title of the resolution reads, "A resolution adopting a revised Master Street Plan for the city of Springdale, Arkansas."
Move the resolution pass.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any further questions or comments from anyone? Okay, Denise?
Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Evans.
Yes, ma'am.
Reed.
Yes.
Jaycox.
Yes.
Wolfer.
Yes.
Carries 5-0.
Go to the next one. Sorry. I'm not used to having to do my own stuff here, so let me get to the next. This is a situation where we have a conditional use for a tandem lot split, which would be the second tandem lot split in this area, and the lot split itself, and then a waiver of street improvements. This has a track that this will be the 5th lot that has been created. Our ordinance indicates that after you've created, 3 lots, you have to have a waiver of subdivision regulations, and with that comes the waiver of street improvements that is required as a portion of this as well. And so this is a waiver request, and they're asking for a waiver of street improvements along
Robbins Road.
Robbins Road. I was going to say, that didn't sound right, but it is Robbins Road, yeah.
But so the track that was created with the latest split
Is this one right here?
is 5.
Is this
So
fifth
it's
one?
not on Robbins Road.
No, because it
Okay.
is a tandem lot split. They were
Okay.
proposing a 50-foot access easement across here to access it. There also is a 25-foot access easement. They'll have to come back and ask for a waiver if they don't use this one. There is a tandem lot here. This could, if they can get that easement across there, this could become the access easement for that tandem lot as well. Or there's this 50-foot access easement that by ordinance would have to be paved at least to this point unless a waiver of variance is granted for that too, so.
Okay.
That Robbins Road is out by my house. It's just a country road that's been asphalted. There's no improvements along it anywhere. It's ditch lines and hillsides. I have talked to the man that wants to buy it. He's gonna run cattle on it. He has property that adjoins it. I just, for that reason, did you read the resolution?
I haven't yet.
He recently built the man, I don't know how much of this is really
Well, the property owner
Relevant.
is not here.
Right.
The applicant is not here tonight.
right. Okay. Did you want to go ahead and read it?
A resolution approving a waiver of subdivision regulations that's set forth in Chapter 112 of the Springdale Code of Ordinances in connection with lot split 1724, a lot split for Hillwood Properties LLC.
Move the resolution pass.
Second.
I have a
We have a motion
question.
and a second.
I have a question about the last whereas, right before the now therefore. Stuff that needs to be there.
No, it doesn't, because the planning commission sent it forward without any
But we
recommendation.
just need to take out the
Yeah,
last
that's
whereas.
probably a cut and paste that didn't get taken out, yeah.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there further questions or comments? Anyone? Okay, Denise?
Evans,
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Jaycox.
Yes.
Wolfer.
Yes.
Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Carries 5-0.
All right. All right, item 13, and I'm going to turn over to Ernest Cate, our city attorney.
Thank you. This is an ordinance authorizing the city clerk to file a cleanup lien for the removal of overgrown brush and debris on property located within the city of Springdale, Washington County, Arkansas. This is on properties located at 906 Caudle, 505 Dyer, 306 Harv, and 316 Old Wire Road.
Move the resolution of the ordinance pass.
Second.
Ernest,
Okay.
Janet Street is listed too. Has that been resolved?
One on 507 Janet,
Yes.
yes, that was, a citation was issued, so it was removed. It wasn't on the one I read.
Okay, it was just in our packet. That's why I thought I'd ask.
Happened today.
That's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions? We have a motion and a second. Anyone in the audience need to speak to any of these? All right, Denise?
Reed,
Yes.
Jaycox.
Yes.
Wolfer.
Yes.
Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Evans.
Yes, ma'am.
Carries 5-0 without an emergency clause.
All right, we'll move on to item 15. Any comments from department heads? Yes, Courtney?
I just wanted to let you all know that we will be participating in the Clear the Shelters event on August 19th, which is not this coming Saturday, but next Saturday. So no worries, if you're still available, Avalon will be available for adoption for the
Bring it
low, low
on.
price of just $10. So yeah, we're really excited about that. It's a national event, and a lot of shelters in Northwest Arkansas are participating. So we're excited. So we'll be posting it on our Facebook page and getting the word out to Melissa here soon. So share it, and hopefully we'll get a bunch of people in to adopt.
Great.
Thanks.
Thanks, Courtney. Anyone else, departments? All right, council, any comments?
I would like to say how well I thought the National Night Out went the other night,
Yeah.
We had a great turnout, and it was just a lot of fun.
It was great.
I think the police department and all the Rotary and the Kiwanis and all of us done a great job.
I agree.
People really enjoyed it.
It was a good evening. All right, anyone else? City Attorney?
No, sir.
Nothing from me.
Motion to adjourn?
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. We're adjourned. Thank you.
It was good.
What time did you actually get out of there that night? I left like 15, 8:30.
I think so.
You know it's 60 days.